I'll just say that the main characters at play in this little section are Early, a young man, Chub, a little girl, and Toby, a little boy, and Mrs. Ada, who is an older woman. Chub was right about those meetings. Mrs. Ada knew all about them too. She got fired up and kept saying what she was hearing coming from them wasn't good. Aubrey wasn't worried. There had been talk and meetings lots of times before. Mrs. Ada said Aubrey keeping his head in the sand was because of Miss Portia White and had gone on long enough. Voice of an angel coming to save the day. Well, where was she? Mrs. Ada didn't sound like an angel, that's for sure. Sometimes even old Nip got a bark in when things between Mrs. Ada and Aubrey really got to going. I can't believe you're going to sit back and let some highfalutin-sounding human rights advisory committee speak for us. Lived here all my life, and I've never seen most of those do-gooders taking up the front rows of the church at those meetings. As for the white folks, no need to tell you, Aubrey Day, I haven't seen them either. Nothing worse than do-gooders, especially when they're doing good in other folks' business. Aubrey finally did get himself down to one of those meetings at the church, only because he told Toby and Early that there'd be no peace and quiet for you-know-who until he did. So when Mrs. Ada showed up, Sunday hat and gloves ready, a few days later, after Toby and Early got back from visiting Chub, there was Aubrey putting on his jacket. You think they'll have singing there tonight? Don't be foolish. It's a meeting with folks from the city hall. Expect some fancy footwork, maybe. No singing then? Toby gotten really sick after seeing Chub, like his bones had gone to water and couldn't hold him up anymore. Early tried to get him outside, not so much for swimming anymore, it getting too cold for that, but maybe for a walk, carried on his shoulders. No, he wasn't interested. Seeing Mrs. Ada and Aubrey getting all smartened up for the meeting made him change his mind, made Early happy. It was a real nice evening, much too nice to be sitting inside, even though Mrs. Ada said they could watch her TV and Petticoat Junction was on. Early always laughed when he saw those girls swimming in the water tank. He wondered if they ever peed in there like he did sometimes at the beach. Looked like a few other folks were heading to the church with them, an old Nip, even Blind Emmett. Aubrey's dog barked hello, and Blind Emmett barked back because he told Early he could talk dog better than anyone in Africville. He never missed anything going on in town. Miss Ruby Hall, either. She told them, after hello, that she had to come to these meetings, being postmistress and all, to know what was going on. Mrs. Ada said underneath a cough that it was so she could tell tales afterwards. Coming in? No place for dogs, and if Toby got fidgety, Mrs. Ada wouldn't be able to hear the men from the city speak. Pops don't want me in there. Do the likes of your father the world of good to step inside a church, Early O'Kander. Maybe then he wouldn't run off and leave you. I'll sit out here with Early and old Nip, said Toby. After Mrs. Ada and Aubrey went inside, a car came along, parked beside some of the others, and a man and a woman got out. Never saw the man before, but that woman. The man, he looked all important with a jacket and tie, hair greased back, said, "Hello, boys," passing by on the stairs. The woman had a pinched, scared look about her. Big eyes, curly hair. She said something about how in the name of all things holy could people be allowed to live like this. She called the man Mr. Wallace, while she stared at old Nip and wondered if that was the damn dog that barked all night. Early said hello. No more folks came after them. You okay out here, Early? You want to go inside and listen? No way. Sitting out here watching the day end with Toby didn't get any better. What's that? Some kid was coming down the road carrying a brown paper bag. It got dark quick now that summer was getting ready to go, so they couldn't make out who. Old Nip, even with his old eyes, he knew. Must have smelled the head. He barked a how-do. Toby was off those church steps faster than Early had seen him move in all the last few days. Chub also ran up, kind of breathless, like maybe she'd run a lot to get there. "Hey, Early," she said, looking at Toby. Chub knelt and gave old Nip a biscuit. First, she had to crumble it, his teeth mostly being gone. She said she asked her aunt to get some biscuits so she could give them to Mickey's dog, but she really meant them for old Nip. Thought you weren't allowed here anymore. They think I'm at Lisa's house. That girl at school? You friends now? Chubb spit, the kind that sealed an oath. No, I hate her. She punched me in the stomach so hard I almost cried, but I didn't. Says I'm a tar baby, and when the sisters don't hear, she makes her friends call me that. So how come you go to her house? I don't. She telephones me all the time, then hangs up so nobody knows it's her, but I do. So tonight, when she called, I answered loud for my mom and Aunt Joy to hear. Oh, yes, Lisa, I'd love to come over and study. Should have heard her on the other end. I never asked you to come over, you ugly little troll. But I just said, see ya. Then some man from my aunt's work came and picked her up. I hope it's a date and they get married and she moves out. That's why I'm here, no one knows. As if anyone cares. Toby said they were inside the church. My aunt's here? Came with some man. What you got in the bag? Something real cool, Toby, for me and you. Early wanted to see too, but Toby said he had to be the lookout by the church door and let them know if anyone was coming. Then Chubb and Toby went by the corner of the building where Early could still hear them and give the signal. Old Nip took his time getting up the stairs to where Early was, then crawled into his lap. When Early leaned back against the church door to get a better look at the night coming, he opened it. We don't have thousands of dollars to bring water and sewage pipes through the rocks down here. Sounded like a lot of money. How many cherry blossoms would that get? Early thought about asking Toby. He'd know. But he was on duty, and Chubb was talking. It's a walkie-talkie. One for you, one for me. They used to be my brothers, but he doesn't want them anymore, so I took them. A flock of ducks passed overhead. You could hear the air when it got pushed out from under their wings. They settled down on the harbor where the moon was shining and sounded like they were having a good laugh. Chubb was showing how the walkie-talkie worked. It was making static noises, like when a TV went all snowy. Maybe the batteries are no good. Got batteries? Yeah, I'm back, see? Hey, what happened on your arm? Oh, nothing. Just got cut, that's all. Dog next door get you? Yeah, I guess. Old Nip was asleep. Only sounds coming out of him were soft, popping farts. Those biscuits hadn't gone down too good. I've been listening to you people now talking about all this moving business, and I'd like to say something. Sit down, Ada. No, I won't sit down, Aubrey Day. I'm going to speak my mind if you won't. My name is Mrs. Ada Dupuy. Lived in my house my whole life on a piece of land my daddy got from his daddy. My grandfather was William Brown, and he got that land in 1848, legal and proper. When my daddy got married, he got a piece. And when my first husband come around, Jesse English, I got a piece of that. Jess and me didn't have much time together. Buried 2 boys after they got caught running across the train tracks back there. And my last one, Ralph, he's the deacon in this church, and I'm very proud of him. After Jess goes, I got another husband. He's gone now too, but I still got that house over by the pond with all the memories. Now, how many of you folks sitting up there can say you live on land your grandfather owned? Honking came really soft at first and far away. Chubb was saying Roger over and out into her walkie-talkie. I'm not some old fool with bad eyes. I can see what's wrong down here, just like you city people can. Places falling down, wells bad in the summer, outdoor toilets, and I know squatters are doing things against the law, not mindful for the rest of us. Early heard him and DJ called squatters lots of times. But it wasn't always like folks gave up down here. Let me tell you something. I remember after the First War, Africville got pretty wild in those days. Got so I didn't think it was fit to raise children. My Jess, he knew otherwise. Him and a few others got up to City Hall and said, we pay taxes down there in Africville, so we need the police, we need good water, so our kids don't get sick. I can tell you, nothing happened. After the next war, same thing. That time, even got the city to put aside money for sewers. So you might want to check in that city hall of yours, because I think that money's sitting around in someone's desk. Sure didn't get spent down here. Some folks chuckled inside. The honking noise was getting louder. Hear that? Said Toby. Yeah, geese. Must be going to Florida. That's where Derek says they go. All we ever wanted, Mrs. Ada was saying, was what other folks already got. Why all the meetings? Do we stay? Do we go? Just give us what we deserve so maybe the young ones will want to stay here and not go first chance they get. Stay here and try to make things better. No point you people sitting up there all holier than thou thinking you talk for Africville. I'm Africville. Aubrey Day here is Africville. I don't even know you people, and you sure don't talk for me. Aubrey kept whispering for Mrs. Ada to be quiet and to sit down. And where are we supposed to go? Big fancy developments in the city? Tell me, I'm going to be able to take Mrs. Trilby with me? She's my cow, sir. Am I going to be able to look out my kitchen window and see the Bedford Basin? And what about this church? I've been part of this church my whole life. Baptized in it. Married in it. I don't want a new one. Somewhere I've never been. And who's going to take care of the ones like Blind Evan when he's out of milk, or needs help getting out of bed when his arthritis gets him all knotted up? Can you answer me that? Early figured this time of year was the best. Warm days, but you didn't notice the smell from the dump so much. Quiet nights, like tonight. Swore if he tried, he could hear every single voice in the big town talking. Not mumble-jumble together, but each one alone. What they got to say, and why. Out there on the harbor, a ship piled with barrels was going slow across the white moon path. Not a peep out of her. Early wondered what she was carrying. So if you have one, and I have one, then we can talk to each other every night before we go to sleep. No one will know. Me, said Toby. I'm 70 years old. I figure I can do without a flush toilet for the rest of my days. What I can't do without are the sunflowers in my backyard, or hear my dead kids wanting to go swimming in the pond. Because they're still with me. Yes, they are. In that house, my house, not something the city owns. You talk about us moving as being better. Integration being better. Better for who? You think I want to live in some city project by white folks who don't want to live by me? So what you're really saying is, you're going to give us a spoonful of sugar to take our homes from us, whether we want it or not. Old Nip looked up sleepily as the geese passed overhead. Burley whispered to Chub and Toby that they thought the birds might stop and get rested. They didn't say. So, now I can help you with your homework like we had planned. How long are you going to that new school? Dad said he got extra money because of something that happened to his ears in the Navy that he didn't even know was wrong. But if you can screw it out of the government, why not? That's what he says pays for my school. You think Grandpa could get money? No. I asked my dad. I said, what about my friend Toby's grandpa? He was in the war too. He said I was silly thinking a Negro fought in the war for our queen. He did. And it was the king. I know that, Toby. I'm just saying. Someone inside said a Dr. Rose was visiting in November. He knew about urban renewal and was a big shot in Toronto. Nothing after that, except singing from a house up the road. The door to the church must have closed, and Toby and Chub weren't saying much either. Burley remembered DJ saying his boy got holes in his brain on account of his mother drinking lots when he was in her belly. DJ used to make him drink lots of that homemade stuff with Knowles. Said it was better than a tit for a baby because it stopped him crying. Sometimes he'd make Early down a whole bottle when he got older, laughing when he couldn't stand up. Must be so, about the holes then. Early sure didn't hold on to things. But Early got to thinking, sitting on those stairs, and it came to him. So quiet out he could hear the crickets. Not long now before they got frozen silent. Waves from the ship that passed were starting to splash, splash, splash against the beach. He watched Toby and Chub sitting on the grass talking, and he knew for sure this one thing, and that he wouldn't forget. Toby was sure glad to have a friend like Chub.